Hey, what's up, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be covering all the details surrounding Mushroom Hill 1, as well as a new setup I cooked up to help make the trick more consistent. This does work with every character, but one thing to keep in mind is that the setup is slightly different with Knuckles because of his jump height. So with that said, the first thing I want to cover are the conditions that cause a death here. There are multiple ways you can die, most of them being crush deaths at the door, but you can also get impaled on the spikes over there if you get a zip jump. Um, so first thing, if you overshoot here, either by moving too fast here by the time you break or by breaking too late, you wind up on the left side of this door. And on the left side here, there is a flat ground. You'll always get crushed like that. And you can actually see that you get crushed because Tails' feet will be in the foreground like that. That'll always cause a crush death. Another way to get crushed here is by jumping too early. So typically what you want to do here is once you start moving to the right, you want to hold left for 2 frames and then jump. But if you jump too soon while the door is too high up, you'll get crushed. Another way you can get crushed is sometimes it's a little hard to reproduce on command, but if your subpixel range is unfavorable, merely holding left here will put you at a certain speed that will cause a crush death. It's hard to do on command, but um, that crush death, unfortunately, you don't even have the opportunity to jump out and even try for the clip. You'll just get crushed straight away. So the setup that I do here specifically aims to avoid that from happening. Um, Basically, what you don't want to happen is you don't want to be in the middle of your break animation while the door starts to push you in, because if it does that, then it'll basically manipulate your subpixels to be in a range where you are at a greater risk of getting crushed after holding left. So the setup that I do is basically stand right next to the switch, jump up, and once you reach around here, you want to make sure that you get close to the apex of the jump, but not quite. And the tails should still be pointing downward. They should not be in a diagonal position. If they are diagonal, then you waited too long. So just jump straight up, get to around here, and then start holding left. And then once you get around here, like just past this red mushroom, you want to break. And that'll put you right in the middle of the door um, before it actually starts to push you down. Um, right here, we should have good subpixels. So if we hold left, if you did it correctly, ideally you would never get crushed for simply holding left here because it basically manipulates the subpixels to be favorable. Next, we want to make sure that the door is low enough before we even attempt to jump. Otherwise, we get crushed. So what I use is the red mushroom there. I wait until the door is roughly around there, and then you want to hold left for 2 frames. And you want to see this. He needs to be partially lodged in the ground here. Once you see this, that's when you want to jump, and you'll get the clip like that. Now, if you see, that's actually the subpixel death right there, where if you hold left, it just crushes you. It doesn't even put you into the ground. So if you see this frame right here, then jumping will cause it would be a zip jump, and that'll happen. If your subpixels are bad, you'll actually just touch the spikes and die. The slow but safe method is to just collect this ring, and then you don't have to worry about that. So what I do here is I use pausing, because even though this is a frame perfect trick, it's really hard to account for every possible scenario in real time. So what we're going to do is we're going to use pausing to allow us to assess the situation and then make a decision based on what we see. So I'm going to jump here, pause, and then see if we have the correct position, and then we start holding left. We're going to run past this red mushroom and pause. Then we hold right to make sure that when we break, we're not overshooting. If we do see that we're going to overshoot, you can actually just hold left and run past the door. And then you just set up the trick again. You do that just to make sure that you don't get crushed. Once we're under the door, we want to make sure it's low enough. Then we're going to hold left for 2 frames and then pause the game. And if we don't do it in time, we'll get something like this. But at least we don't get crushed. And if we see that, where you hold left and he's not partially lodged in the ground yet, you can do one of 2 things. You can either go for the clip or you can bail. I recommend bailing because if you go for the clip, there's a possibility that when you unpause the game and do the jump, you'll jump before you hold left. And doing that will definitely cause a crush death. So I typically just bail there. And right here, I paused 1 frame too late, so this will cause the zip jump. If I unpause and jump on the earliest possible frame, we'll get a zip jump here. And if you have 0 rings, you risk dying to the spikes. So you can see here that even though it's still difficult to get because it's a frame perfect trick, and your positioning has to be just right, we can assess the situation by using pause. You do sacrifice some time, obviously, for doing this. And there we go. That right there, that might be too high actually, but that is the correct frame. So right there, I paused just short of getting clipped into the ground. So what I can do is I can either hold left or I can just keep holding right and just bail. And there we go. I paused on the correct frame. So you'd want to unpause and then jump as soon as possible. That was 1 frame too late. There we go. So that's basically what that looks like. So ideally, there we go. So that's basically Mushroom Hill 1. The idea behind the pauses, once again, it's not to make the frame perfect jump any easier. It's still a frame perfect jump no matter how you slice it. Because I could just go for this trick in real time like this, and something like that could happen. And because I'm not pausing, I can't assess the situation. It's in multiple crush deaths in a row, and then I get the clip. See, it's not really that difficult to do in real time. But as you can see, all those crush deaths, I mean, any one of those crush deaths would be a reset in a run. So the idea is to use this setup to put yourself in the correct position so that you're least likely to overshoot, wind up on the left side of the door. And you basically time it so that your break and your positioning is such that the door cannot be too high. So you can't get a crush death for jumping too early there. And as far as not holding left long enough by the time you pause, I mean, once you pause, you can see what happens, and if it's not good, you just bail out and try the setup again. So it's just basically avoiding all the different death scenarios as much as possible. The only risk here of dying should be the subpixel thing. Unfortunately, um, sometimes that'll happen. It's not common, but sometimes it can happen. And also the subpixel thing with the spikes. I have not figured out a way to prevent that from happening. Besides, don't get the zip jump. If you can avoid it, it's kind of hard because the frame for that comes right after the frame you need to get the clip. But yeah, this it's a lot to take in. I know it's a lot to take in, but basically just practice it on your own pace, try and get a feel for it. If if in doubt, just make sure you use those pauses to assess the situation. If you do this first part correctly, you should never get crushed by simply holding left over here. it should not happen. So if you see this, if you don't pause on the correct frame, you should not get crushed if you did the first part of the setup correctly. Just keep holding right and bail out and try it again. Like such. And there you go, that's Mushroom Hill 1. I hope you found this useful. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to oblige.